Welcome to the Storymakers Podcast. I'm Talina Adamo. Today, I'd like to share an article with you. Beyond the map, the difference between a plan and a direction. For most of my life, I believe success came from having a plan. Not just a general idea of where I wanted to go, a real plan. The kind with goals, milestones, deadlines, and carefully mapped out steps. There is certainly value in planning. Plans help us organize our thoughts. They help us prioritize. They help us move forward instead of standing still. But the older I get, the more I realize that some of the most meaningful things in my life didn't arrive because of a perfect plan. They arrived because I was moving in a direction. And there is a difference. A plan assumes we know exactly how the future should unfold. A direction simply points us towards what matters and allows room for the unexpected. Life, in my experience, seems to enjoy the unexpected. Opportunities appear from places we never anticipated. People enter our lives at surprising moments. Conversations lead to possibilities we couldn't have predicted. And sometimes, the things we spend years trying to force into existence arrive through a completely different door. Lately, I found myself thinking about this more than usual. As many of you know, I've spent years pursuing creative goals as a writer, filmmaker, storyteller, and entrepreneur. Like many creators, I've often felt pressure to know exactly where I'm going and exactly how I'm going to get there. But recently, something interesting happened. Someone reached out to me for help with a self-tape audition. As I thought about how best to help them, I remembered an old acting friend who offered self-taping services. It had been a while since we'd spoken, so I decided to reach out and catch up. What started as a simple reconnection quickly turned into something much bigger. During our conversation, I learned she had started a nonprofit focused on helping actors and filmmakers. As we talked, possibilities began to emerge involving teaching, collaboration, and contributing in ways I hadn't been actively pursuing. None of it was on my to-do list. They were simply ideas floating in the back of my mind, possibilities I felt drawn toward but hadn't yet turned into concrete plans. And yet, through that single conversation, some of those possibilities suddenly felt a little closer and a little more real. None of it was part of a carefully crafted plan, and yet it felt perfectly aligned with the direction I was already moving. The more I reflected on it, the more I realized how often this has happened throughout my life. An idea appears, a curiosity begins pulling at my attention, a dream quietly takes root in the back of my mind. And then often, when I'm not forcing it, the right conversation, the right person, or the right opportunity seems to appear at exactly the right time. Some people might call that coincidence. Others might call it intuition. Some believe it's God gently guiding the way. Others see it as a universe responding. Whatever name you give it, sometimes life seems to move when you take the first step. I don't claim to know exactly what it is. What I do know is that many of the most meaningful opportunities in my life arrived not because I had every step planned out, but because I remained open enough to recognize them when they appeared. Had I been completely consumed by a rigid plan, I might never have reached out in the first place. And if I hadn't reached out, that entire chain of possibilities might never have revealed itself. It reminded me of something I've experienced many times throughout my life. Some opportunities don't arrive because we chase them. They arrive because we're already moving in the right direction when they appear. That realization connected with something else I've been reflecting on recently. I was reading about my human design profile, which describes me as a 6'2". Whether you believe in human design or not isn't really the point. What caught my attention was the description itself. Part of it suggested that some people aren't meant to force every opportunity into existence through constant striving and control. Instead, they may find themselves moving through life by following what feels aligned, learning through experience, and remaining open to invitations and opportunities that appear along the way. As I reflected on my own journey, I realized how often the most meaningful opportunities in my life arrive that way. Not because I planned every detail, not because I chased every possibility, but because I stayed open long enough to recognize the right opportunities when they appeared. The more I thought about it, the more it reminded me of the difference between a plan and a direction. A plan asks us to control the future. A direction asks us to participate in it. A plan says, this is exactly how it must happen. A direction says, this is where I'm headed, but I'm willing to remain open to better paths along the way. That doesn't mean abandoning goals. It doesn't mean sitting around waiting for life to happen. It doesn't mean giving up responsibilities for creating the future you want. You still have to take action. You still have to show up. You still have to do the work. Perhaps some of our greatest opportunities are waiting just beyond the edges of the map we've already drawn. The more I think about it, the more I find myself trading certainty for curiosity. Instead of asking, how do I make this exact thing happen? I find myself asking, what direction feels most aligned right now? Because directions leave room for discovery. Directions leave room for growth. Directions leave room for opportunities we could never have planned. They also leave room for possibilities we may never have imagined. And maybe that's one of the great lessons of life. Not everything meaningful can be scheduled. Not everything important can be predicted. Sometimes the next step only becomes visible after we've taken the one in front of us. A thought before you go. Have any of the most meaningful opportunities in your life arrived through a path you never planned? Looking back, can you trace the small decisions, conversations, or coincidences that led you there? I'd love to hear your story. I would also like to know what you think about the companion instrumental piece that was inspired by this article. It's called Beyond the Map. You can find the track embedded at the bottom of this article. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and keep moving in the direction that feels right for you. Thank you for listening.